Welcome to the final episode in the build series of the massive F-14 XXL aircraft. This thing is unbelievable. Looking forward to wrapping this girl up. We got a lot to accomplish in this episode. Engine runs are probably going to be the highlight, and after this episode airs, very soon is the maiden flight at Montana Jets. So let's dive back in to this beautiful aircraft. All right, last episode we just wrapped up with our gear and struggling with the solenoids and valves and sequencers and all that jazz. So what we can do now is, I was waiting to bolt the board down until we had all that stuff dealt with. So we've got our primary receiver out there because we were messing around with it. But we've got to get our wires organized underneath the board so we don't have any of them sitting on top of our riser. We're going to install our second receiver right in this area. Reason I'm doing it here is I can have one of the antennas come underneath this support, and that's going to be our sideways antenna, and the other one's just going to go forward backwards. So we got to get that mounted and run, get our wiring cleaned up, use our keepers and get those fastened on the central box and a whole bunch of other things. So let's dive back into this thing and get her wrapped up. All right, so we've got second receiver mounted. I've got my power box wire cut here. So one of these is for our EXT programming port. The other one is going to plug in and run to our Cortex, and it's going to be our receiver lead. All right, so we're just sorting out our pilots, moving heads before we get the board installed. So this is the random motion generator from RC Geek. These don't come with the shrink tube on them. I put the shrink tube on them, cut open the little windows. That's just to protect the board from any contact or anything like that. And there we go, RC Geek. You can order these when you order your pilots from Warbird Pilots. So because we don't have an open channel for the pilots moving heads, what we're going to do, or what I want to do, is pair it up with the Canopy solenoid. Now the Canopy solenoid plugs in right here. We can add a Y cable, get our board attached to the Y cable. But what I'm doing right now is I'm checking the sequence of things. So right now in our radio, our locks are engaged, and this doesn't have air pressure right now, but our canopy is closed and our pilot is working. So if we change this around and open the canopy. Canopy unlocked and open, so locks are open and this would extend. Our pilot is now turned off. So that changes things a little bit. At its simplest form, what we need to do is we need to reverse our lines here on our canopy solenoid. Because we're going to have to reverse that channel. But when we reverse that channel, that may affect other things. So we just need to be mindful of that stuff. Hopefully it's fairly simple, but I'm going to go on our radio here and see if we can get that stuff sorted out. And hopefully it's a fairly simple process. So fairly simple switch. All we did was go into our servo setup, canopy, servo, and reversed the servo. Doesn't change any of our programming. All it does is reverse that one output channel, but all of our programming stays the same. So now all we need to do is go in and reverse our leads. So our close is now our open, and our open is now our close. So fairly simple to change. All right, and our tray is secured. All of our wires have been bundled with some Velcro. Our keepers have been installed on the Central Box 400. And that part is awesome. So I'm going to get our antennas secured here from our primary receiver. So we'll get those mounted, and man, we're getting close. We've got our pilot head device attached here. We've got our Y cable, our canopy valve all tied in and everything. So before we do any more buttoning up back here, we've got keepers installed in the central box, but we need to put some shoe goop on all of our other servo leads. So everything in this area, we'll also do our fail-safe sequencer for our valves. So there's a couple things to shoe goop in the connection department. All right, so we've got everything gooped, we've got everything installed, everything's looking good. We have the airplane powered up, we've got our batteries charged. This is awesome. So one thing I'm going to do here before I do any of the pilot stuff is get our canopy sequenced. So I've gone in, made some adjustments, and basically we've got things sequenced here for the canopy. So if we go canopy closed, just looking for my switch here. So canopy closed, you'll see canopy closes and the valve locks after about 8 seconds. Obviously we can adjust that. And then canopy open, unlocks, and then we've got about half a second delay before the canopy opens. Now I haven't put any restrictors or anything on the canopy lines yet. This was just to get the timing down, which we've got. All right, so I've added some restrictors here. These are some inline restrictors, and they're adjustable, and I've got them set up here so you can watch our canopy open and close. So canopy is currently closed, open, nice and slow, and canopy closed. Awesome. So that's perfect. So now what we can do is we can, with this sequenced properly, we can work on getting our pilots and cockpits installed. All right, so canopy is installed. I've done some adjustments here. I'll show you what I did. Typically on this type of setup where you've got a whole bunch of hooks, you need to do some adjustments to make this work. So I'll operate this. Hopefully it works smooth. We've got everything slowed down, of course. Works awesome. We'll go closed. So the guy's heads turn on when the canopy's open, right? So now we'll close it, and perfect. So the key here is to get this to sit down. Previously it wasn't sitting down by itself, and I'll show you why. So you don't want to go too crazy on these hooks or sanding any of this stuff. So all we have to do is do a little bit of sanding right there on this spot. You got to be careful you don't do too much. And then what we did was we also have to end up sanding the lock because there's a whole bunch of different layers on this front hook because of the lock mechanism. So we got the fiberglass sanded properly where this hook drops into the slot. And then after operation a couple times, you can look down in there and see that the fiberglass for the lock was sitting in the opening, preventing it from dropping all the way down. So again, took a hand file, just this type of thing right here, and did some light sanding to make it work perfect. All right, so only a few things left to do. One of the next things I'm going to work on is changing our pilot names here. So I don't know who Landby Masters is or Skips Edens, but they are going bye-bye, and we are doing David Jet Guy Sofer on the front, Jonathan Magic Vote on the back. Now I think these are, yeah, they're decals, vinyls. So they should be fairly easy to get off. I'm just going to take my X-Acto and just kind of trim around the outside here. But ultimately we can just sand this down. It's nice that this is black because it's pretty easy to match and stuff, but these are going to get painted white. All right, so we got all of our decals, decals off, both sides. And what I'm doing now is I'm taking 1000 grit sandpaper and just smoothing this area out. So they were installed clear coated before, so I'm just making this nice and smooth. And then what I'll do is come in here and touch this area up with black. We've got a couple areas there that are black's been scraped off or whatever. I think that's what that is. I don't think it's any residual decal. It might be a residual from the decal, but we'll see. Anyways, we're going to sand that down and see what it looks like after. All right, we've got all 4 nameplates, previous nameplates sanded down. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to pull out my airbrush. So we're doing the airbrushing in a few different steps here. Obviously, step number 1 is we are putting on our black. So we're just going to touch up the white areas, kind of smooth this area out. While we're waiting for that to dry, we're going to weather the landing gear. Now it's just going to be a nice light weathering on the gear. I did a sort of how-to weathering on the Su-30 landing gear, so I'm not going to really show much other than the final product on the F-14 landing gear, but we're just going to make it a little bit dirty to kind of fit in with the rest of the aircraft. And then once that weathering is done, then we can go back and put our stencils on and start putting our new pilot names on the aircraft. All right, so we've got our stencils installed now on both sides. We're going to get those this airbrushed. Probably going to take quite a few layers of white, maybe 3 or 4 coats, but we'll start that process. And while we had the black out, we got the landing gear all dirtied up. and looks good. So it looks less pristine and more appropriate for the aircraft. All right, names have been changed. We still have to clear coat over top of that, but we're going to give it a day or so to cure, and turned out very nice. Awesome. So last things we have to do as far as finishing touches go, making some hatch latches for the access panels here. So I came up with a bit of an interesting design. I will kind of put it together roughly and show you. All right, so we do have some room here between the wing actuation or wing spar and the top of the airframe. On the previous one, there was a little bit less room, so we've changed the design a little bit here. So basically, I'm going to have this material, or this, I guess, piano wire. It's fairly thick stuff. It's going to be fastened around this piece right here, and it's just going to pivot up, and we'll have a block of wood for it to go into, something like that. And basically, that'll hold the hatches open while you're fueling, while you're putting your wings together, while you're starting your engines, whatever you need. Nice and simple, and not overly complicated, and then it just sits there on top of that piece. Isn't able to pop out because the actual cover itself will hold it in place. So nice and simple. We do need to come up with a block system to glue to this side though, because you don't want that just to sit against the fiberglass, or it will eventually punch through. So next thing I'm going to work on is the block that we're going to mount there, and then we'll be ready to install this. All right, so we've got everything basically done that we need to, so we are going to put this on its landing gear on the ground for the first time. Obviously, it's lived on the landing gear. Well, it has been on the landing gear when we unboxed it, but you know what I mean. All right, so on its legs for the first time, fully complete. So that is awesome. Everything looks good with it. And she's ready to run. This is exciting stuff. So we are doing the engine runs on our live tonight at the lighter side of RC After Dark. So if you're not familiar with what that is, the After Dark channel, it's a completely separate channel. We do live streams roughly every 2 weeks here from the shop for about 2 hours. Coolest thing about that is you get to see stuff way before these videos come out, and also you get to interact with us. So if you have any questions, comments, anything like that, if you're watching or if you're on while the live is happening, you can ask us those things. We can see them and respond to them. So it's tons of fun. Check it out. All right, so we got our hatch things. I don't really know what to call them. Hatch latches, but they're not really latches. They're just supports. Hood supports. Hood supports. We got our hood supports done. These worked out really good. Actually, I'm quite impressed at how simple this is. And basically, they just clip in like this. They're not going to go anywhere because this end is tight. That end kind of clips and just pops in there. So initially, I was actually just going to rest it against a piece of wood here, but this works out better because if it's windy, it's not going to flip open. So it's pretty much ideal. Exact same thing on the other side. We used some 6mm 3D keepers, glued them in place there. Works perfect. All right, guys, so we are ready to do our run-ups. We are currently on our live stream right now on the lighter side of RC After Dark. You can see it over there on the TV. Ward's manning the camera. And we are ready to do our engine run-ups. So we have the wings on, obviously. We've got the tail section on. Pretty much everything's ready to go. We've got about half a tank of fuel, so I don't know how many liters that is, but that'll be fine for our engine run-ups. So we're going to do kind of a normal setup here. So what we're going to do is we're going to start the engines. We're going to run both of them at the same time. And then we are going to let the idles stabilize. I hope they start the first time. Obviously I've primed the engines. There's going to be some air bubbles in the system. So if we do have either a missed start or a flame out, it's totally normal. Nothing to do with the engines. It's just because everything's brand new. So we're going to let the idles stabilize. Then what we're going to do is we're going to do a slow acceleration to full throttle. We've got Ward here and Russell to help hold this plane down. It's got almost 500 newtons of power, so it's going to be a little bit nuts.
You got 500 pounds of meat here.
Same as the SU. It's got a lot of push. So anyways, that's the plan. Then once we've gone to full throttle and idled back, we'll do an acceleration check, and then we'll do a couple checks with the acceleration, and then we'll do a restart test as well too. So the restart's been initialized on both of these engines, and that'll basically do the test run of the engines. So anyways, so voltage is good on both batteries. Trim up. Brakes are on. Yeah, they both started. All right, you guys ready?
Yeah.
I'm here as backup if you need it.
Yeah,
I'm not holding. Accelerate. Okay, ready? Time. Okay, restart test. Good? Ready? Yeah.
We got a winner. If there's only one person trying to stop this thing,
No.
you're going. And that's the way you got to run it up, right? Just like that.
We've got our aircraft on our RCCG machine. The F-14 fits without our European extensions. This is awesome. Definitely a challenge, a three-person job to get this monster on there. Everybody's so concerned with the weight of this aircraft, so we're just filling up the fuel tanks and we'll take a look at how much this thing comes in at. All right, so we've got our tanks full here. I can't really move the plane, but tank is full. It's coming out of the overflow vent, and we've got our overflow hooked up, so I stopped it just as it's coming out. And there is our final weight. 99.72 pounds, 71 pounds, full of fuel, ready to go. Crazy, crazy. So I did that first just so you guys could see the all-up weight of this thing. Now we're gonna pull the fuel out and check our CG. Now the tanks of this aircraft are basically right over the CG point. So we're gonna take it out just because it doesn't need to be in there. But we'll take out the fuel and we will we'll see what it comes in at. All right, well, we did the CG and I forgot to record it. So anyways, this plane, because the wheels are so big, it's actually a little bit scary having it on the balance pucks. So we did check it. It actually works out perfect. So 0 weight added to the nose. It is bang on perfect. The CG does go a little bit aft. Not much, but a little bit aft because the tank, the CG point is essentially here. A little bit of the tank's behind. But once we got it on the ground here, we did a bit of a rudimentary check. So grabbed the front of the spar, lifted it up. It was nose heavy, so this is as far back as you kind of want to go. Grab the knuckle here, which would be about probably 40 millimeters in front of this part kind of thing. Grabbed underneath the knuckle, lifted, and the tail dropped. So we're right in the range in front of the carbon plate. If I was to say, we're probably 10 millimeters in front of the plate kind of thing. So CG is bang on without any weight added. That is perfection. All right, so there she is all stripped down, nose cone off, batteries out, wings off, horizontal stabs or tailerons are off. And we're going to store this plane on its wheels for a while because I want to use my workbench. So we're going to do our final little bits here and there and get this thing finalized and wrapped up. So next thing we're doing is we're putting this part on the nose. So this goes underneath the nose of the aircraft. I've already marked this out in pencil, so I'm just going to sand this guy down, sand the fuselage down, and we'll just glue this onto the underside of the fuselage with Hysol, and that's going to take care of that part. All right, so we got our front scale detail here mounted. I just put Hysol in the center, put a couple drops of CA, get this lined up in the right spot, spray some kicker, and now the CA is holding it in place while the Hysol does its thing. So easiest way to mount that kind of stuff for sure. All right, so I put a little M4 bolt through here, nut on this side, and this gives us a pitot tube storage area. So this aircraft may get transported with the nose cone on, highly likely that it won't be, so good little spot to put your pitot tube right there. So it's going to be nice and solid and not get lost. Well guys, it's hard to get this thing in view, you're far back, but that wraps up the build of the SKYMASTER F-14 XXL aircraft. What a treat, what a pleasure it was to put this together, and took quite a few hours obviously, but I'm happy with it. It's going to be an amazing flyer, and when this video comes out, I think that video is going to be June 12th or something like that. The maiden is happening the week of the 17th of June in Montana at Montana Jets. So looking forward to that event, and looking forward to getting the flight video of this beautiful aircraft. Obviously, this size aircraft isn't for everyone. You need first of all, a fair amount of cash to put this thing together. But it is, from the videos I've seen, a beautiful flyer, and I'm looking forward to seeing this thing in the air. So thanks guys so much for tuning into the build series. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to list them down below. You can also reach out to me at thelightersideofrc@gmail.com. Yeah, looking forward to a beautiful summer. It's going to be a fun flying season. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.